Do you sometimes feel unsure of yourself? Do you feel like you're in a place where you doubt yourself and your abilities? Even worse, you look around you and everyone seems like they have that much confidence in themselves and what they do. Let me shock you. Even the most confident people, just like you, doubt themselves. But the only secret now is they have mastered that art of self-confidence. Hello and welcome to Evolve with Jola. I am Jola. Welcome back. Today we are going to discuss a very significant issue that has held a lot of people back, yet propelled a lot more to the top. Self-confidence is a very key factor in achieving success, either financially, marital, educational, emotional, name it. Self-confidence is very, very important. Everyone admires a self-confident person. We might even envy them a little. But guess what? It's not so easy to have that confidence. But there are steps you can take towards maintaining and increasing your confidence level. Of course, I won't be discussing today's topic alone, as I have my beautiful guest in the studio. She is Sochima Anya. Sochima is a certified practicing HR professional with academic background in French and human resource management. She is also the creative director, Chic Sews, a fashion-forward female shoe company. Hello, Sochima. How are you doing?
I'm good. And you?
Perfect. It's so nice to have you on the set today.
Thank you.
I'm super excited about discussing this particular topic because I'm quite passionate about it. We're just going to jump straight right into it. I would like you to please tell me what self-confidence is and why it's such an important subject.
Okay, well, I would say that self-confidence is an important subject because it plays a critical role in determining the outcome of our lives. And by my own very simple definition, I would say that self-confidence is a state of mind where you believe that you can do, become, and achieve anything that you set your mind to do. Yeah.
Okay, that was a nice answer. But then, how do one gain self-confidence?
Okay, well, before I answer that question, I would like to state, for the sake of our viewers, that self-confidence is rooted in self-esteem. So like we all know, in layman terms, self-esteem is basically your own perception of yourself. Now, a person's self-esteem is shaped over time, right, by events, occurrences, and basically circumstances which the person, experienced over time. Now, the first step towards developing self-confidence is asking yourself, okay, so if I'm trying to develop self-confidence, does it mean that I lack it? Literally just being honest with yourself. Okay, yes, I actually do lack self-confidence. So then we go straight to, okay, so how do you now start to cultivate it? Now, you need to trace back what caused your lack of self-confidence in the first place. Take, for instance, if you meet a boy who, let's say a young man, in fact, of 25 years who feels like he's a never-do-well, he can never, meet up. Now, if you look deeper, you would realize that perhaps when he was growing up, he had some very important people in his lives talk down on him. Maybe make comments like, oh, you this boy, you're so dumb, you could never understand simple English. Can't you just be like your sister? Can't you just, do things right? Now, comments like that have a way of shaping a person's perception of themselves, which in turn, of course, leads to a downfall, a diminishing in the person's self-esteem. So now once you're able to identify the root cause of that low self-esteem, tackle it head on, face your fears, confront it, and rise above it. Now, the second thing will be to feed yourself, your mind, with the right kind of information. Because in the first place, that low self-esteem was caused by negative information, which was, poured out into that person. So you'd have to fill your mind with the right kind of information. Now, this could be, limiting contact with exposure to things that make you feel less of yourself. For instance, if you feel like, when you're on certain people's, Instagram pages, you feel under pressure, it's okay to unfollow them, and you could start following people who inspire you, motivational speakers. That is the first thing I would say, filling your mind with the right information. Now, from the Christian perspective, what I would also say is no one can rightly define and explain to you who you really are, except the person who made you. Now, who made us? God made us. So the question you'd ask yourself is, what does God say about me? Have you asked yourself that question? Now, if you are able to sit down, check the Bible, find out what does God really say about me. Trust me. In fact, I think that is the first place to start before seeking, inspirational talks from professionals. Then the next thing will be to constantly focus on your strengths, because really anything you focus on magnifies. If you're constantly thinking of how, oh my God, I'm so short, damn, I need more hips or something, trust me, that is all you would ever think of yourself. You would always feel like you can never meet up in that area. But the moment you start to focus on your strengths, your weaknesses just diminish before your very eyes. So I'll just stop there.
Right, that was beautiful. Okay guys, did you get that? Remember, your self-confidence is directly linked to your self-esteem, which is how you see yourself. So now, how do you see yourself? You need to start seeing yourself in the right light. So Sochi, there's a very thin line between confidence and pride. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm a very confident person. If I walk into a room, you know how confident I am. From the way I walk to the way I talk to my behavior. So people kind of misunderstand me, from far. They're already judging me like, oh, I don't think we can walk up to her. They feel like I'm not approachable without actually getting to know who I am. So if you don't walk up to me to say hi or something, you don't know if I'm going to respond or not. How do we strike a balance between self-confidence and pride?
Okay, so the first thing I'll say in response to your question is, trust me, I've been there.
Okay.
Like, the reality of life is, everybody always thinks the next person is proud, so long as they look nice. Mm-hmm. In fact, the moment you apply a red lipstick and you enter a new place of work, they're already beefing you.
Yes.
Do you understand? So I would say it is normal for people to misjudge other people, but then there are two sides to this. So the first side is, of course, when people approach you, the character traits that you display towards them is what would actually leave the long-term impression they have of you. When they come closer, in fact, what they see is who you really are. And if you are exhibiting traits of humility, of meekness, then that is what they would live with and perhaps spread the word. Mm-hmm. Now, but then the question then is, how many of your, of the people who get to see you from afar would have the opportunity of actually, having a one-on-one with you? Only a very few percentage. So now that is when the entire, drawing a line between pride and self-confidence comes into play. Now, the thing is, as a self-confident person, when you know and you realize that you are actually self-confident, you now need to be deliberate about posturing your heart in a state of humility at all times. Now, a confident person, when he or she enters a place, let me say you, for example, when you enter a place, you don't need anybody to validate you. Like, you already feel fly on your own, So you can actually, before you know it, start to think, I don't need anybody. Now, that is the thin line. But you need to deliberately maintain that mindset of, okay, yes, I'm confident, but every other person is as valuable as I am. So you need to start making deliberate moves to remind yourself that you are humble. For example, you enter a room where, they would even be like, she's so nice. She looks really pretty. You greet first. Good afternoon, ma'am. Not that you're trying to impress anybody. No, but the actions that you take register in your subconscious, and that is what actually, determines who you think you are. So when you make actions that remind you that you are a humble person, it becomes really difficult for you to overstep the boundary between self-confidence and pride. But then, one more thing I would say, to maintain that balance is lift other people up. Now, if you are a self-confident person, it is very important that you help lift other people. Okay, so why am I saying this? A proud person doesn't want anybody else to rise above him or her. In fact, they want to be the one, calling the shots everywhere they go. But when you deliberately, make effort to pull people up, by pull people up, I mean encourage people to be better, give people opportunities when you have access to do that, encourage them to also, build their own confidence level. It does something to your subconscious. It reminds you that anybody can be even the way you are. So you don't start to feel like you're an island. You don't start to feel like, you don't even start to feel that fear of, if this person becomes, better than me, mm-hmm. Oh my God, that means I'll lose my shine. Trust me, there's there are enough stars to go around.
Yes.
There's enough space at the top for everybody. So
That's- yeah.
did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay,
Very
great.
perfect.
Okay.
Love it. There are a lot of people out there that don't think much of themselves. They just somehow lack confidence. I don't know why personally, because me, I'm a very confident person. But what do you think causes lack of confidence?
Okay, so we had addressed this earlier, but I will just say a few things to further buttress the point. Apparently, like we already established, self-confidence is deeply rooted in self-esteem. And then we also mentioned that a person's self-esteem is built over time based on occurrences and circumstances in which they found themselves, right? And we also mentioned, that one of the key ways before I go about how to overcome, which was kind of like what we discussed before, I will just emphasize again on the cause. Nothing happens for no reason. There's something called cause and there is something called result, So action begets reaction. Things are triggered, So when you realize that you have a low self-esteem, don't just feel like, oh, I was born with low self-esteem. God just did not give me my own fair share of self-esteem, Trust me, it didn't just fall on you. There were things, even maybe things you might even have forgotten, that must have triggered, the way you perceive yourself. So, darling, the first thing you need to do is to trace it, find out, what exactly caused it. Why do I always feel like I'm not enough? So you identify the root cause. And then back to the other points we raised before, which is after that, feeding your mind with the right kind of information, cutting down on things that trigger that feeling of low self-worth, and then focusing on your strengths, because when you do that, then your weaknesses diminish before your eyes. And of course, that inevitably builds your self-esteem, your self-confidence, actually.
What are those things you do to help you build your self-confidence?
Okay, so the first thing is I admit to myself that I'm not perfect. I admit to myself that, Sochi, you're not the prettiest girl out there, but there is value in you. Because see, you have to really realize that you're not the most beautiful person on earth, you're not the hippiest, you're not the smartest really. In every area that you think, you are really up there are people who have greater strengths in that area. So you need to realize that there are other people out there who are just as smart as you, so that you're not taking unawares when you go out, into the corporate space or into the world, really. So that's the first thing I do. I tell myself, see, you're beautiful, but then there are smarter people out there. But then I look deeper and say, Sachi, what are your areas of strength? And then I focus on my areas of strength. And then I don't just focus on them. I seek to improve myself. I seek to improve those areas of strength and I leverage on them continually. And then one other thing I do is I deliberately try to ensure that I do not compare myself to anybody. Trust me, with the rise of social media, it has even become more difficult to just stay on your own lane, and just look at your own self. Because when you go online, Instagram most especially, you say, oh, this person. But we need to realize that what people show you is what they want you to see. Exactly. So they themselves are highlighting their own strengths. So darling, highlight your own strength, but of course to yourself first, and then the world would follow. Stop seeking your validation from people. You are enough. Look inward. You see value in there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's very right. Look inward. Remember that word. Always look inward because there's value in you.
Absolutely.
Sachima, were you born with confidence? Like, did you just pop out dripping in confidence? Or did you have a moment where you had to learn to build your confidence?
Well, now that is a very deep question. Okay, so now, to the surprise of many, when you know how there's that point in your life when you realize yourself, when you become aware. Now, at the point when I become aware of myself as a child, I was a stammerer. So there is stuttering and there is stammering. So stuttering is just slipping on some words, but stammering like mama, yeah. So that kind of thing. So and unfortunately in my primary school, I won't call it a nowhere. So in my primary school, we had this set of kids, and I feel like they're in every school really, this set of kids who like to pick on those who seem different from the rest. For some reason, they just found me really cool to pick on, and they used to really pick on me. Now, before they even started So I already found it difficult, like having normal interaction with other children. But then when that started, I literally just recalled into my shell. God, I always felt very little of myself. And I remember that even in secondary school, because the whole picking on thing happened in primary school, right? So even in secondary school, when I was even made a house prefect, I still couldn't just rise above that low self-esteem thing. It really did get to me. But I think the turning point for me was when I met Jesus, Now, I don't know how it happened, but I started to realize that I was worth more than I had ever thought. Now, this realization didn't just fall from heaven, or I slept and woke up and realized. No, it was there in the Word of God. I'm a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. Like, I'm literally a princess,
Exactly.
My father is the king of the entire world.
Exactly.
That alone puts you here already in your mind, So that was the first thing. That was the foundational thing for me. But another thing that really helped was that God really blessed me with the right set of people. He was deliberate in surrounding me with the right kind of people. So I had a mentor and friends who always highlighted my strengths to me. You know how you don't realize how much of a good writer, for example, you are, but people tell you, babe, I not know what you wrote. And then they're like, Sochi, you're so, they start to highlight areas of yourself that, that you were even blind to. So those things, and during our conversation earlier, I had mentioned about how feeding your mind with the right kind of information plays a very critical role in, moving your self-esteem from like here to here. So that was me talking out of experience, because it really did help. Even at work, some managers, they just call you and like, oh babe, you're doing really well, focus on this part, you're really great at this part. When people tell you things like that, don't always feel like they're washing you, because they're actually people who give genuine feedback. So take the positive feedback. Yes, take the negative ones and work on it, but don't focus on the negative feedback. Look at the positive ones and see how you can even further improve that part of yourself. So I would say that those were the two key things that helped me rise above that self-esteem issue. And one thing that I would say is that building, a very healthy self-esteem, which is in fact self-confidence, is a gradual process. It doesn't fall on you. You don't wake up, or you don't just pray and then God, in fact, the fact is that when you pray that, oh God, please help me, He starts to put you in situations that would improve how you see yourself. As you study the Word of God and and you pray about it, He starts to put you in situations where you would have to, rise above that fear, really. So those are basically what I'd have to say about that. Basically, yeah. I'm trying to maintain my composure. Yeah.
That's just beautiful. You know what? Self-confidence doesn't just come to you in one day. It's something you grow, you build on over time. So yes, you have to keep that in mind. Do you have any final words for us?
Well, okay, so to you awesome people watching this show, the first thing I would say is start from where you are. And the fact is that, that girl, that guy who you think, oh my God, they are so confident. Do you know that one very, unplanned thing can just happen to them, and their self-confidence goes from here to, all the way down. So the same way that could happen is the same way you can start where you are, start to build your self-esteem, start to build your perception of yourself. So I'll just use one quote, that a friend of mine lent me, So that is, as you feed your faith, as you feed your strengths, you just sit back and watch all your fears starve to death. Yeah.
Wow. All I can say is wow, wow, wow. So Chima has dropped some very big bombs here today.
Oh, I did?
And I'm so glad again to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Jola, and thank you for having me.
Thank you too. Okay, you have to remember that if you're going to take on the world and succeed at it, you have to build that self-confidence. Be confident in yourself, in your vision and that ability, and take on the world very confidently. Till I see you next time, I'm confident you're going to reach out to us via our socials. On Instagram @_evolve with Jola, on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube @evolve with Jola. Also check out our website www.evolvewithjola.com. Bye.